I grew up in a town that doesn't appear on any maps. People call it Raven Hollow, but it's more of a ghost than a place, a secret that people forget to remember. Nestled in a dark valley, Raven Hollow is always shrouded in mist, like the earth itself is trying to swallow it back into obscurity. I didn't think much of it growing up. The town had its quirks, sure. The air was always heavy, as if it carried the weight of too many unspoken words. The church bells rang at odd hours, though the church itself had burned down decades ago. And the people, well, they weren't what you'd call welcoming. We had no tourists, no outsiders. Anyone who stumbled in by accident seemed to leave in a hurry, pale and trembling, as if they'd seen something they shouldn't have. When I turned 18, I left. Like so many others, I wanted to escape the suffocating stillness of the place. College felt like a new world, and for a while I thrived. I made friends, met people who didn't flinch at shadows, and slept without hearing whispers in the walls. But the thing about Raven Hollow is, it doesn't let you go. Not really. It started with dreams. Vivid, intrusive dreams that felt more like memories. The cobblestone streets of Raven Hollow stretched endlessly, twisting in impossible ways. The mist thickened, swallowing buildings and faces. In the dreams, I always ended up at the town square, standing before the cracked fountain. The statue of a morning angel that would slowly turn to look at me, her hollow eyes bleeding darkness. I'd wake up gasping, my sheets damp with sweat, my heart racing like I'd been running for my life. Then, the letters started arriving. No return address, just my name scrawled in jagged handwriting. Inside were cryptic messages. It's calling you back. You belong here. It's not done with you. I ignored them, burned them, tried to forget. But the pull grew stronger. 2 weeks ago, I caved. I told myself I was going back for closure, to face whatever was haunting me and finally put it to rest. The drive to Raven Hollow felt like descending into a different world. The GPS lost signal miles before I reached the valley. The trees on either side of the road seemed to lean in, their branches entwining to form a canopy that blocked out the sun. When I crossed the town's threshold, the mist enveloped me like an embrace. Everything looked the same yet wrong. The houses were warped, their windows dark and empty. The streets were deserted, though I could feel eyes watching from every shadow. The fountain in the square was cracked but flowing, the water dark and sluggish. I didn't see anyone at first. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant sound of the church bells. I followed the sound, drawn like a moth to a flame. The charred remains of the church stood at the edge of town, surrounded by gravestones that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking. Inside I found them. The townspeople. They stood motionless, their faces pale and lifeless, their eyes glassy and fixed on the altar. It was then that I noticed the rope in my hands, its fibers rough and damp. My heart sank as I looked up and saw what they were staring at, a figure hanging from the rafters, swaying gently despite the lack of wind. It was me. I stumbled backward, the rope slipping from my fingers. The figure's eyes snapped open, and they were mine, hollow, accusing. Its lips parted, and it spoke in a voice that echoed inside my skull. You never left. The ground beneath me gave way, and I fell into darkness. When I woke, I was in my old room, back in my parents' house. But it wasn't the same. The walls were streaked with mold, the air thick with decay. I heard whispers coming from the hallway, growing louder and louder until they formed a single, dreadful word. Stay. I don't know how long I've been here. Days, weeks, maybe longer. Time doesn't work right in Raven Hollow. The mist is thicker now, choking out what little light remains. The church bells still ring, but the notes are discordant, like the town is unraveling from the inside out. Sometimes, I hear footsteps outside my door. Sometimes they stop. I think Raven Hollow wants me to stay. I think it always has. And I think, no, I know, it will have me. Just like it's had everyone else. If you ever find yourself near a valley shrouded in mist, turn around. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't stop. Not even if you hear the bells. The footsteps outside my door have stopped altogether now. 4 days, they came and went, pacing just beyond the thin wooden barrier as if taunting me. But the silence that's replaced them is worse. It's thick, heavy, and full of things unsaid. Things waiting. I've tried to leave the house, but the door won't open. Not even when I throw my full weight against it. The windows are useless too. They show nothing but gray mist that seems to press against the glass like it's alive. I smashed one with a chair, desperate for escape, but the fog poured in like water, choking me until I staggered back. When I looked again, the window was whole, as if I'd never touched it. I'm trapped. The whispers have returned. At first, they were faint, a susurrus of voices just beyond hearing. Now, they echo inside the walls, inside my head. They don't speak in any language I recognize, but the meaning is clear: stay. Belong. Return. Yesterday, or was it today, I ventured into the attic. I don't know what I was looking for. A weapon? A clue? Something to explain why this is happening to me? I found an old trunk, its hinges rusted and barely holding together. Inside was a tattered journal. The leather cover was warped and peeling, the pages brittle and yellowed with age. The handwriting inside wasn't mine, but it was eerily familiar. The entries spoke of the mist, the bells, the watchers in the shadows. The last page was different. The ink was fresher, the words trembling and rushed, as if written in a frenzy. It read, "You cannot leave. The Hollow will not let you. It feeds on us, binds us to it. You've seen them, haven't you? The others? They were like you once, trying to escape. They're still here. We all are." The journal slipped from my hands as a loud crash echoed from downstairs. Something, or someone, was in the house with me. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a broken chair leg, and crept down the stairs, my heart hammering in my chest. The living room was empty, but the front door stood open. The mist outside seemed thicker than ever, swirling like smoke. And then I saw it, something moving in the fog. A figure, pale and flickering like a faulty film reel, standing just beyond the threshold. It was me again. Not the hanging version from the church, but something else. This version looked gaunt, its eyes sunken and lifeless, its mouth curled into a smile that didn't belong on my face. It raised a hand, beckoning. I didn't move. I couldn't. The figure's smile widened, its teeth sharp and jagged, glinting even in the dim light. Then it spoke, its voice layered with echoes that made my skin crawl. "You've been here before," it said. "And you'll be here again." I stumbled back, slamming the door shut, but the voice didn't stop. It seeped through the walls, through the air, filling every corner of my mind. "We all belong to the Hollow. I've stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. What's the point?" The whispers grow louder, the mist presses harder against the windows, and I can feel the house changing around me. The walls seem closer, the floors uneven. The stairs now creak in patterns, like a tune I almost recognize. I know I should be scared, but I'm too tired to care. The Hollow is winning, pulling me deeper into its embrace. I see them now, the others. They stand in the shadows, their faces obscured, their bodies flickering like candle flames. And I see myself among them. If anyone reads this, heed my warning. Stay far, far away from Raven Hollow. It doesn't just trap you, it unravels you. It takes your face, your voice, your soul, and leaves you as one of its many hollowed echoes. The footsteps are back. This time, they're inside. I think they're coming for me. No, I know they are. And worst of all, I'm ready. I'm not sure how long I've been sitting here, waiting. Time doesn't mean anything anymore. The whispers have become a steady hum, a language I've started to understand without knowing the words. The mist seeps through the cracks now, curling along the floor like it's searching for me. I used to hide from it, retreat to the attic or the basement, but now I just watch it, mesmerized by its slow, deliberate movement. Last night, or maybe it was this morning, the house shifted again. The walls groaned, the floors buckled, and when I opened the front door, the street was gone. In its place was the fountain from the square. The angel stood in the center, her hollow eyes fixed on me. The water was dark and thick, and I swear it moved, as if something beneath the surface was alive. I closed the door and turned around, only to find myself outside again, standing by the fountain. The air was colder there, sharp with a metallic tang that burned my throat. The angel tilted her head slowly, her gaze following me as I backed away. Her stone lips parted, and she whispered in a voice like grinding rocks, "You're almost ready." I ran. Or at least I tried. My legs felt heavy, my movements sluggish, like I was running through water. The streets twisted and coiled around me, leading me in circles until I was back at the fountain. The angel had moved. Her hands, once clasped in prayer, were outstretched now, her fingers curling as if reaching for me. When I woke up, I was back in the house, sitting in the living room with the journal in my lap. The last page was different now. The handwriting was mine. "It's not so bad once you let go," it read. "We've all been afraid, but the hollow is kind. It keeps us. It remembers us. And soon you'll remember too." The whispers are clearer now, forming words I can't ignore. They say my name, over and over, a chorus of voices urging me to come home. And I think I want to. There's a strange comfort in the repetition, in the inevitability of it all. Fighting has made me tired, and the hollow has never stopped waiting. I've started to see myself everywhere. In the mirror, in the windows, in the shadows that stretch too long and move when I don't. Each version is more familiar than the last, and each one smiles that too-wide smile, like they're welcoming me back to where I've always belonged. The front door is open again. The mist is spilling in, curling around my feet like an old friend. I hear the bells now, louder than ever, their chime resonating deep in my chest. The footsteps are in every room, and I can feel the air shift as they close in. The fountain is waiting for me. The angel is waiting for me. I'm tired of fighting. Tired of running. Tired of pretending I'm not already a part of this place. The mist feels warm now, almost comforting. The whispers are louder, a steady chant. "Come home. Come home. Come home." I think it's time. If someone finds this, don't try to save me. Don't come looking for me. There's no way out of Raven Hollow. There never was. The footsteps stopped just behind me. I felt the air shift, colder and heavier, like the weight of something vast pressing down on my chest. I didn't dare turn around, but I knew whatever was there wasn't human. It wasn't me either, not exactly. Then it spoke. "We told you. You never left." Its voice was wrong. It wasn't a voice at all, really, more like a cacophony of whispers threaded together into a semblance of speech. Each syllable crawled under my skin, pricking at the edges of my sanity. I stayed rooted to the spot, clutching the useless chair leg tighter, as though it could save me. The thing behind me moved closer. I could feel the cold radiating off it now, seeping into my bones. "Look," it said. I didn't want to. Every nerve in my body screamed not to. But against my will, my body obeyed. Slowly I turned. It wasn't one figure. It was many. An entire crowd of faces, flickering and shifting, their eyes hollow pits that stared straight through me. Some of the faces were familiar, my neighbors, old classmates, even my parents. Others were strangers, their features twisted in anguish, as though they'd been screaming for centuries. And then I saw her. A little girl, her dress tattered and stained, stood at the front of the crowd. Her hair hung limp around her face, but I knew her instantly. It was me, or at least, a version of me I hadn't seen in decades. The girl smiled, her lips parting to reveal rows of jagged, too-sharp teeth. "You've been here longer than you remember," she whispered. "We all have." The crowd surged forward, and the air grew impossibly cold. The mist poured into the room, swallowing the walls and ceiling until there was nothing but white. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The mist wrapped around my legs, pulling me down, down, into a suffocating void. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed immediately. The faces surrounded me, pressing in closer, their hollow eyes reflecting my own growing panic. Their mouths moved in unison, speaking in a language I couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. "You belong to the hollow. The mist pulled me under, and everything went dark. When I woke, I was back in my room. The sunlight streamed through the window, warm and bright, as if nothing had ever happened. For a moment, I dared to hope it was all a dream. But then I noticed the mirror. It hung crooked on the wall across from my bed, its surface cracked and streaked with grime. My reflection stared back at me, or something that looked like me. Its eyes were hollow, its smile too wide, and it didn't move when I did. I backed away, my heart pounding, but my reflection leaned closer, pressing its face against the glass. "You never left," it said, its voice echoing with the weight of the entire hollow. And that's when I realized the truth. I didn't wake up. I never would. I don't know how much time has passed since the mirror spoke to me. Days? Weeks? Time doesn't work the same here. The sunlight that streamed through the window that morning was the last I've seen. Now, the sky outside is a sickly gray, swirling with a mist that seems to move with purpose, like a predator circling its prey. The mirror remains on the wall, and so does the thing inside it. It doesn't mimic me anymore, it's something else entirely, though it wears my face like a mask. It watches me constantly, its hollow eyes following my every move. I've tried covering it, smashing it, ignoring it. Nothing works. The glass always repairs itself, and the reflection always returns. At first, I thought I was alone. But the house has changed. The walls groan at night, like they're breathing. The floorboards shift beneath my feet, and sometimes I feel them tilt, pulling me toward the door that leads to the attic. I haven't gone up there since I found the journal, but I can feel it calling me. The whispers that fill the house now carry a single, chilling refrain. "Come upstairs. Come and see." I tried to fight it, to barricade the attic door, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seep into my thoughts, into my dreams, until the attic is all I can think about. Last night, I woke up standing at the base of the stairs, my hand on the doorknob. I don't remember getting there. This morning, or what I think was morning, I gave in. The house was silent, the kind of silence that feels alive, like it's holding its breath. The attic door creaked open easily, as though it had been waiting for me. The stairs were steep and narrow, the air growing colder with each step. At the top, I found the room exactly as I left it, but something was different. The trunk where I'd found the journal was open again, though I swear I closed it before. The journal lay inside, its pages spread wide as if beckoning. But it wasn't the journal that held my attention. On the far wall, where there should have been nothing but bare wood, there was now a mirror, a massive, ornate thing that I'd never seen before. Its frame was carved with strange symbols, twisting and looping like a tangle of roots. And in the mirror, I saw the hollow. The mist churned, forming vague shapes that flickered in and out of existence. Faces, bodies, the outlines of buildings, all dissolving as quickly as they appeared. At the center of it all stood the fountain, its dark water rippling unnaturally, though there was no wind. I stepped closer, unable to look away. The reflection began to shift, drawing me in deeper. I saw the church, its charred ruins glowing faintly with an eerie light. The bell tower loomed, impossibly tall, its bells ringing in a slow, dreadful rhythm. Then I saw myself. Not my reflection, the real me, standing in the square. My face was pale, my eyes hollow, and I was smiling. The other figures in the hollow surrounded me, their flickering forms reaching out, pulling me into their fold. I reached out to touch the mirror, and the glass rippled like water beneath my fingers. The figures in the hollow turned to me in unison, their mouths moving in silent invitation. "You're already here," the voice whispered behind me. I spun around, but the attic was empty. When I turned back to the mirror, my own face was staring back at me again, but this time it was wrong. My reflection grinned, wider and wider, until its mouth stretched unnaturally, splitting the skin at the corners. Then it whispered, "Come inside. I don't know what's real anymore. I'm still here, in the house, but I can feel the hollow bleeding into this space. The mist creeps under the doors, seeps through the cracks in the walls. The whispers never stop, and the mirror, it's everywhere now. In the windows, in the puddles on the floor, in the shine of my own eyes. The hollow doesn't just trap you, it consumes you. It's not a place, it's a hunger, a void that fills every corner of your mind until there's nothing left but its call. And I can feel it winning. If you're reading this, I have one piece of advice: don't let it pull you in. If you ever hear the bells, see the mist, or feel the cold creeping into your bones, turn away. Run. Because once you step into the hollow, it never lets you go. And soon, I won't even want to leave. I thought I had reached the end, that the hollow had taken everything it could. But I was wrong. It wasn't done with me. It's never done. The mirrors have multiplied. I can't avoid them now. Every surface reflects the hollow back at me. Even the smooth, dark wood of the dining table shows fleeting glimpses of the fountain, the church, the figures waiting just beyond the mist. They are closer now. I feel their presence pressing against the walls, the ceiling, the very air I breathe. Last night, I found another journal. It wasn't in the attic this time, but on my bedside table. The cover was blackened with soot, and the pages smelled faintly of decay. I almost didn't open it. But I couldn't help myself. The handwriting inside was mine. Day 1, I arrived back in Raven Hollow today. The town hasn't changed, but it feels wrong. The air is heavy, like it's holding its breath. No one greeted me, but I feel watched. Day 5, the church bells ring constantly now. I can't tell if it's real or in my head. I've started hearing whispers at night, words I can't understand. But they feel familiar, like I've heard them all my life. Day 12, the mirrors are everywhere. They show me things I don't want to see. Sometimes I see myself standing in the square, staring back at me. Other times I see the faces of people I thought I'd forgotten, people I know are dead. Day 20, the hollow is taking me. I can feel it unraveling my thoughts, my memories. Sometimes I don't know if I'm awake or dreaming. I think the only way to escape is to go deeper. To find the source. I dropped the journal, my hands trembling. The words felt like a trap, a snare tightening around my mind. But one line lingered, looping in my thoughts like a chant. The only way to escape is to go deeper. That's when I heard the bells. They didn't sound like they usually do, distant and mournful. This time they were deafening, as though the church was right outside my window. I stumbled to the door, clutching my ears, but the sound didn't fade. It grew sharper, more insistent, pulling me toward the attic. The stairs stretched impossibly long, the steps creaking under my weight. The mirror was waiting for me at the top, larger than before, its frame glowing faintly. The mist inside churned, revealing glimpses of the hollow, the square, the church, the figures. And me. I was standing in the mist, my face blank, my body stiff. My reflection smiled, raising a hand to beckon me forward. The glass rippled again, and I knew, if I touched it, there'd be no turning back. But I couldn't stop myself. My hand moved of its own accord, my fingers brushing the surface. The cold was unbearable, searing my skin like frostbite. The mist poured out, enveloping me, pulling me through the mirror. I'm in the hollow now. The air is thick and damp, the mist clinging to my skin like cobwebs. The square is just as I saw it in the reflections, the fountain cracked and flowing with dark water, the church looming in the distance, its bells tolling endlessly. The figures surround me. They don't move, don't speak, but their presence is overwhelming. I can feel their eyes on me, their silent judgment. And I see myself among them. I try to run, but my legs won't obey. The mist presses against me, filling my lungs, dragging me back toward the fountain. The angel statue turns, her hollow eyes locking onto mine. Her mouth opens, and for the first time, I hear her voice. You are home. This may be my final entry. I can feel myself fading, my thoughts unraveling like threads in the wind. The hollow is taking everything, my memories, my voice, my soul. But before it does, I need to leave this warning: the hollow is alive. It hungers. And once it claims you, it never lets go. If you ever hear the bells run, if you ever see the mist, turn back. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself here, with me, and all the others who belong to the hollow. And soon you'll forget why you ever wanted to leave. I've given in. There's nothing left to fight. The hollow has me, body and soul, and I know now that it was always meant to. I've stopped counting the days, or hours, or years. Time flows differently here, if it flows at all. The mist is in my lungs, my veins, my thoughts. I can barely tell where it ends and I begin. The others are closer now. They don't speak, but I feel their presence like a weight pressing on my mind. Their faces flicker, shifting between strangers and familiar people from my past, friends, family, and even strangers I've passed on the street. Sometimes one of them wears my face. Sometimes I wear theirs. And then there's the fountain. I've avoided it as long as I could, but the hollow draws me to it like a moth to a flame. The angel statue looms above it, her hollow eyes following my every move. The water isn't water anymore, it's darker than the mist, an endless black that seems to pull at the edges of my vision. When I get too close, I hear whispers rising from its depths. You belong here. Join us. Finish it. I tried to run once, tried to escape the square, the mist, the hollow itself. But the roads win back on themselves, twisting into impossible loops. Every path leads me back here, to the fountain and the angel and the faces watching from the shadows. I stood at the edge of the fountain today. I don't know how long I was there. Hours? Days? The whispers grew louder, and the angel seemed to shift, her stone wings stretching toward me. The water rippled, though there was no wind, and for the first time, I saw something rise from the blackness. It was a face. My face. But it wasn't just me. It was every version of me, all the fragments of myself that the hollow has taken. They stared up at me, their eyes hollow and accusing, their mouths moving in unison to form a single word. Stay. I stepped back, but the ground beneath me gave way. The mist coiled around my legs, pulling me down, dragging me into the fountain. The cold was unbearable, seeping into my bones, my thoughts, my very essence. I tried to scream, but the water filled my lungs, and the darkness swallowed me whole. Now I am part of the hollow. I see the others clearly now, their forms flickering like dying flames. They aren't people anymore, not entirely. They are echoes, memories trapped in an endless loop, fragments of lives devoured by the hollow. And I am one of them. Sometimes I still see the world beyond the mist. A face at a window, a shadow in the corner of a room, a fleeting reflection in a mirror. We reach out, whispering through the cracks, pulling others closer. Not because we want to, but because we have to. The hollow demands it. The church bells still ring, their mournful toll echoing through the mist. The angel watches from her perch, her hollow eyes unblinking. And the fountain ripples, waiting for the next soul to stumble into its embrace. If you're reading this, it's already too late. The hollow has its ways of reaching out, of finding those who are lost, curious, or desperate. You'll hear the bells, see the mist, feel the cold seeping into your heart. And when you do, you'll know, the hollow is calling. Run if you can. Fight if you must. But in the end, we all return to the hollow. Because it was never just a place. It was always us.